A temporary holiday on stamp duty is reportedly one of the measures being considered by the Chancellor to give the UK an economic boost post-pandemic. But will it be enough to encourage people to buy in an uncertain market? With me now is the property expert, Henry Pryor. Hello to you, Henry. Always good to talk to you. Thanks for joining us. What do you think? If we do have a stamp duty holiday, will it make any difference to the housing market?
Well, I'm sure that there'll be a lot of people who will be delighted to have an extra, potentially £15,000 in their house to go out and buy a new home. There's a big question mark over whether it's actually necessary. The housing market was one of the first bits of business to wake up after the pandemic and after the lockdown. We woke up in mid-May and started buying and selling, renting and letting properties. And it's something that has actually got going. Estate agents around the country are talking about business almost being as good as usual, which means that people are able to buy and sell with some confidence. And it's a surprise to many that the Chancellor is potentially looking at stamp duty because of the impact that it might have on prices, not just propping them up, but potentially fueling house prices at a time when we understand the government is trying to level up the economy, both geographically from the south and from the north, but also specifically for younger people who have been particularly hard hit by this pandemic.
So, Henry, from what you're saying, it would appear that, the housing market had bounced back somewhat. I know from speaking anecdotally to estate agents, they've never been busier, in their words. But the Chancellor potentially is still looking at this stamp duty holiday. That must fill you and others with some concern that the market, the Chancellor thinks, is potentially heading towards falling off a cliff.
Well, there is some grave concern. As you rightly say, Kay, there's no one more optimistic and enthusiastic than estate agents. If we do go into a second lockdown, then obviously wouldn't that be a wonderful person to be hanging out with, because they'll keep you cheerful all the way through till Christmas. But the reality is that there are some very grown-up and serious people, not least of all the Bank of England, talking about house prices potentially sliding by 14%. Some of the banks and lending institutions are talking about more serious falls. I don't think the house prices and the housing market is going to crash, but most people seem to think that house prices might slide between 5 and 10% between now and Christmas. It could fall further, but is a stamp duty holiday for homes up to £500,000 and a saving of possibly 2% or 3% really going to encourage people to make a commitment for what for most people is their biggest single financial purchase? That remains to be seen, and I suspect an awful lot of people are still going to hold off. But the devil will be in the detail, Kate. It's going to be really interesting to see whether the Chancellor is going to only target this at first-time buyers who already pay stamp duty holiday up to £300,000, or whether he's going to make it available to everybody, and whether everybody is also going to include those who buy second homes or properties for investment, landlords and the like, which I'm afraid will become incredibly divisive if that's the case. More to see at lunchtime, no doubt, with Ian and with the rest of you.
Indeed. So, final thought before we let you go, Henry. If there is to be a stamp duty holiday, I'm guessing that has to happen straight away, because if it doesn't happen until September, people are not going to buy property until September, are they? I'm guessing.
Please, please, if there's one thing that the housing market and the property industry is desperate to see today, it's a certain decision. We had rumour and speculation over the weekend that this might be happening, and I'm afraid there's nothing that's worse for the housing market than some confusion about whether or not a tax break is going to be introduced. People will understandably sit on their hands and wait to see whether it's worth buying now or whether they should put off their purchase until later. One of the things we've seen, Kate, from previous stamp duty holidays that various governments of all different colours and flavours have introduced over the last 20 or 30 years is that actually it makes very little difference to the total number of homes that are bought and sold. It makes a difference to when people make those purchases. And if the Chancellor does not introduce this within the next 24 hours, it's going to make the housing market, I'm afraid, sit on its hands probably for the rest of the year.
Excellent staging there, Henry, if I might say so. We've got a bit of light from the window, lovely pictures behind you, and Sky News on the telly box. Very clever. We appreciate you taking the effort there. Thank you.
Least we can do. Thank you so much, Kate. Thank you.
Just thrown together, you see.